So first of all, I want to thank everybody. I know it's painful to sit and stare over Zoom for all this time, but actually I did not find it painful at all because there's a lot of really interesting things going on, both in the invited talks as well as at the sites. I just wanted to share with you a few notes that I jotted down over the past few hours. The first is a comment that Rick O'Brien made. He was trying to differentiate between the nano-enabled Internet of Things and the Internet of Nano Things. I'm not sure I understood the distinction, but I thought Internet of Nano Things is a lot less clumsy to say. And so we might consider the name of our research community going forward. But that aside, here are some of the things that struck me. The first was the diversity of applications. We saw all kinds of stuff, right? I'm not going to sit here and list it all, but I think that's something that we can summarize and present to our sister sites. Everything from the farm to the body to the automobile to what Kevin just presented for stabilizing children with spinal issues. The second thing that struck me was that Nano seems to play a role at all levels, right? Obviously the transducers, many of the transducers are Nano enabled, but the energy sources, the low power, ultra low power circuitries, the antennas or the readout interfaces, whatever it is, optical, we saw ultrasonic from scenic and so on. And then even if everything is conventional, that we heard from Caden's talk, that co-locating conventional sensors using heterogeneous integration technology into ultra-compact packages that could consume less power or have less latency is another way that Nano can contribute to the Internet of Things. The third thing I noted down was that Nano enables quantity. Quantity enables collecting lots of data, and we have this massive cloud collection capability where that data can be processed. And we may be able to extract much more information out of the interaction of sensors than from any particular sensor itself. And why does that work? Well, it's because Amazon has lots of computers crunching data, but I would argue it works because if they need data quantity, spatial and temporal quantity of data, and nano fabrication is the way to make the sensors at the cost scale that enables all of that data to be collected. And then finally, the last thing that I heard was that in addition to the traditional equipment, there are a number of interesting new sets of equipment that nano IoT users have exploited. We heard the aerosol inkjet printing a number of times. We heard the roll-to-roll manufacturing, again, exploiting the high volume nature of nano IoT. And I think we should probably collect what we heard today and highlight that to our sister sites as either potential future investments or getting additional input from them as to what their nano IoT users have heard. So those were my notes, and if there were any high-level things that others have noted, I'd love to jot them down. I will say before I relinquish the podium that we will try to bring the site directors back together in a couple weeks to sort of go through, to give Pat and I a chance to think through all of this, and we can sort of give you our distilled version of what we heard today, and to think through a strategy for presenting this to the larger group in November. Any other high-level points that people heard that I failed to note down today? Chris, yes.
Well, actually, I didn't hear it during today, but I hear it from some of our users. Many of our our IoT users are actually going to foundries. And so one of the things we're trying to figure out is what role a facility like ours can play in the foundry world. And one area is header integration, because often the foundries have a limited suite of things they can or will do. But then also being able to prototype, because we're good at making a few extraordinary things, and it's the foundries that can make many, perhaps less extraordinary things, but in that case, many trumps extraordinary. So just something to mull over. Again, we didn't mention it today, but I think it's something collectively we need to deal with and do a good job at.
Yeah, that's a great point. So I've got that one recorded. So I think if there's nothing else, we are at our closing time. So let me thank the entire group for wonderful presentations. I learned a lot today. I'm really excited. I learned a lot today from everyone. And I'd also like to thank the audience, especially those who stuck with us during the day. And hopefully this was useful and valuable to you as well. I heard a rumor that Pat threatened to circulate a survey. Actually, that's not true. I threatened Pat to make him circulate a survey. And I think the goal here is that this symposium is intended to rotate around the sites. And does this format make sense? What should we be thinking about? What should the next site be thinking about? In some sense, we had it easy because our job was to catalog a whole bunch of existing stuff. Is that what we want to do again next year? The same catalog? Or do we want to do something at a higher level of abstraction? Do we want to start to look at things that Chris mentioned about interacting with foundries, things like that? So we should give a little thought to that. And so your survey feedback will not just be the usual stuff, but will actually have a significant impact, I'm sure, on what the next symposium will look like. And I'd also like to thank Pat and the group that you can't see up in the room where he is for really making this run very, very smoothly. So thank you, Pat, for everything you did to put this together. I think we'll have something really good to show both our sister sites as well as Larry at the upcoming meeting. So hopefully we have satisfied our obligation and then some by having this symposium now. Any last comments? Oliver, do you have any comments from the perspective of the coordinating office? We can talk about how we might want to disseminate this information, whether people mind if we share this video publicly or whether we should keep it internal. We can think about that. That could potentially be a survey question, I suppose.
Yeah, it could go on the website, right? In one form or the other, it could go on the website. I was putting in the chat, I would love to hear, I mean, we saw so many examples. I would love to hear from the audience whether we missed anything, right? Whether there are any particular areas that were not covered. My dogs want to say something as well. Apologize. They were quiet all morning.
So Oliver, maybe I could suggest what we can do is maybe put that in part of the survey too.
Yeah, absolutely.
The audience, if there are areas that we should address as additional areas. Great. Okay.
Thanks, Mark and Pat, for organizing that.
Thank
You're
you.
very welcome. And yeah, like I said, we'll reach out to the site directors soon. And then after that, look forward to seeing you all in, well, virtually in Chicago in a few weeks later. So thanks again, everyone. Really appreciate your participation.